First contact in the Academy. The thing about being the only human at the Intergalactic Academy of Sciences was that everyone treated Zara Thompson like she was made of spun sugar and stardust. It had been 3 standard galactic months since she'd arrived, and still, her fellow students acted as if she might crumble at the slightest touch. Careful with the gravitational field adjustments, warned Professor Lyrics, their tentacles swirling in concern as Zara approached the laboratory equipment. The professor was a Nexilian, a species that resembled an elegant combination of an octopus and a bioluminescent jellyfish. Your calcium-based endoskeleton might not handle the strain. Zara bit back a sigh. Professor, I grew up in Earth's gravity. This is actually quite comfortable for me. She adjusted the controls with practiced ease, her movements precise and confident. From across the room, Rilith, a crystalline being from the silicon-based civilization of Proxima Centauri b, chimed in with their usual condescension. Perhaps we should install emergency pressure shields around her workstation. I've read that humans require constant atmospheric maintenance. That's for space travel, Rilith, Zara muttered, focusing on her work. I'm perfectly fine in standard atmosphere. The only one who didn't treat her like she was about to shatter was Nebula, a gas-based entity who had taken the form of a swirling purple cloud today. They drifted closer to Zara's station, their voice a soft whisper of wind. They mean well, you know. Most species here evolved in environments far more controlled than Earth. They simply cannot comprehend surviving in such dynamic conditions. Dynamic. That was a polite way of putting it. Earth was classified as a deathworld by galactic standards, a planet so hostile that most species couldn't survive there for more than a few hours without extensive protection. High gravity, aggressive microorganisms, extreme temperature variations, and unpredictable weather patterns made it a nightmare for most galactic citizens. The day's lecture was about evolutionary adaptations in various planetary environments. Professor Lyrics's tentacles created elaborate holograms as they explained how different species had evolved to survive in their native habitats. Today, we will begin preparing for our major assignment, a comprehensive study of predator-prey relationships across different worlds. The class rippled with excitement, literally, in the case of the liquid-based students. Each student will research and present on their homeworld's most significant predatory species, Lyrics continued, their bioluminescence pulsing gently. Student Thompson, given Earth's unique challenges, perhaps you would prefer to focus on one of your world's smaller creatures. Those furry companions humans keep, perhaps. Zara straightened in her seat, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Actually, Professor, I'd like to focus on marine predators. Marine. Rilitha's crystalline structure vibrated in confusion. You mean creatures that exist in naturally occurring liquid? Exactly, Zara replied, already pulling up data on her tablet. Specifically, I want to present on Carcharodon carcharias. Professor Lyrics's tentacles twisted in concern. I'm not familiar with this species. You might know it better as the great white shark, Zara said, watching as her words caused a ripple of unease through the classroom. One of Earth's apex predators. Surely you mean a small aquatic creature. Rilith chimed nervously. Zara projected a hologram in the center of the room, a life-sized image of a great white shark, its powerful body suspended in the blue depths, rows of serrated teeth gleaming. No, I mean this. The reaction was immediate. Several gaseous students condensed in shock, 2 crystalline beings nearly shattered, and Professor Lyrics's tentacles tied themselves in knots. Nebula expanded in fascination, their purple swirls darkening with interest. This creature exists in your planet's liquid? Professor Lyrics managed to ask. Oh yes, Zara said, warming to her subject. They're perfectly evolved predators. They've survived multiple mass extinctions, they're older than trees, and they have multiple rows of replaceable teeth. Would you like to see how they hunt? The silence in the room was deafening. Zara could practically see her classmates reconsidering everything they thought they knew about humans and their homeworld. After all, what kind of species not only survived but thrived on a planet that produced such creatures? I think, Nebula drifted closer, their voice filled with newfound respect. We've been rather foolish about humans, haven't we? Zara grinned, queuing up footage of a great white breaching while hunting. You haven't seen anything yet. Wait until I tell you about our oceans. The class that had started with concerned whispers about human fragility was about to become a lesson in why Earth's reputation as a death world was well earned. And Zara couldn't wait to shatter some more preconceptions about her species' supposed weakness. Beneath the waves. The Academy's holographic library was eerily quiet at night, its vast digital archives casting a soft blue glow across the empty study spaces. Zara sat surrounded by floating displays of Earth's oceans, fine-tuning her presentation while Nebula drifted nearby, their gaseous form shifting between shades of fascinated purple and horrified indigo. Let me understand this correctly, Nebula whispered, their voice like wine through leaves. Your planet's surface is primarily covered in this water substance, and it contains thousands of predatory species. Try millions, Zara replied, manipulating a 3D projection of a deep-sea ecosystem. We've only discovered a fraction of what lives down there. Some scientists think we know more about certain parts of space than we do about our own deep oceans. But why would your species choose to remain on such a world? The gas being condensed slightly in confusion. Zara laughed. We didn't exactly choose it. We evolved there. It's home. She pulled up another hologram. Here's something interesting, this is an orca, also known as a killer whale. They're actually dolphins, not whales, and they're incredibly intelligent. The hologram showed a pod of orcas coordinating to create a wave, washing a seal off an ice floe. Nebula's form rippled in a mixture of horror and admiration. They use tools. And hunt in groups. Pack hunting is pretty common among Earth's predators, Zara explained, cycling through more footage. Wolves do it on land, orcas and dolphins in the sea. Even some sharks hunt in groups. The same sharks you're presenting about tomorrow? Great whites are usually solitary hunters, but there are other species. Zara trailed off as the library's entrance shimmed with a crystalline chime. Rilith entered, their faceted form catching the light from the holograms. Student Thompson, they chimed stiffly. I've been researching your planet's marine predators. Surely these recordings have been enhanced for dramatic effect. Instead of answering, Zara pulled up new footage, a compilation of great white sharks breaching while hunting seals. The massive predators launched themselves completely out of the water, their powerful bodies defying gravity for heart-stopping moments before crashing back into the waves. Rilitha's crystalline structure vibrated at a frequency Zara had never heard before. That's impossible. The energy required, the sheer muscular strength. Would you like to see how they detect prey? Zara asked innocently, already queuing up the next hologram. They can sense electrical impulses from other creatures' heartbeats. Some sharks can detect a single drop of blood in Olympic-sized pools of water. Your species evolved on a planet with these creatures. Rilitha's usual condescension had been replaced with something that sounded suspiciously like respect. And survived? Survived? Zara grinned. We became the apex predators. Though I have to admit, sharks had a few 100 million years head start on us. More students began filtering into the library, drawn by the dramatic holograms and Rilitha's uncharacteristic silence. Zara noticed Professor Lyrics hovering near the entrance, their tentacles twisting in what might have been professional curiosity. The truly fascinating part, Zara continued, warming to her audience, is that great whites aren't even our most dangerous marine predator. They're just the most famous. Wait until you learn about colossal squid, or blue-ringed octopuses, or box jellyfish. There are more. A gelatinous student quivered. Oh, so many more. The thing about Earth's oceans is that they've been an evolutionary arms race for millions of years. Every predator had to become more efficient, more deadly, just to survive. And that was before the really interesting adaptations started developing. Nebula expanded with curiosity. What do you mean by really interesting? Zara pulled up new data streams. Well, take the cone snail. Looks harmless, right? Except it's developed a neurotoxin so potent that a single sting can kill multiple humans. Or the electric eel, which can generate enough electricity to stun a horse. Then there's the pistol shrimp, which creates underwater shock waves as hot as the surface of the sun. Professor Lyrix's tentacles tied themselves into complex knots. Student Thompson, perhaps we should save some material for your presentation tomorrow? Of course, Professor. Zara began shutting down the holograms, but not before catching glimpses of her classmates' reactions. Rilith had gone completely still, their crystalline structure reflecting the last images of hunting sharks. Several gaseous students had condensed to their smallest possible forms. Even the liquid-based beings seemed to be maintaining unusually rigid surface tension. As the library emptied, Nebula lingered behind. You know, they whispered, their forms shimmering with amusement, I believe I finally understand why humans laugh in the face of danger. When you evolve alongside creatures like that, everything else must seem rather tame in comparison. Zara gathered her data tablets, already anticipating tomorrow's presentation. Just wait until they learn about what lives in the really deep parts of our oceans. The parts where sunlight never reaches. There are parts of your oceans without light. Nebula's form darkened with fascination. That's where things get really interesting, Zara promised, heading for the exit. Behind her, the library's holograms flickered out one by one, leaving only the ghostly image of a great white shark, suspended in the darkness, its ancient eyes watching the stars. The research expedition. Professor Lyrix's announcement dropped into the stunned silence following Zara's presentation like a depth charge. The Academy Board has approved a research expedition to Earth's Pacific Ocean. The classroom erupted in chaos. Several gaseous students dissipated in shock, while Rilith's crystalline form emitted a high-pitched chime of distress. Nebula expanded to twice their usual size, their purple swirls darkening with excitement. The Pacific? Zara asked, trying to keep her voice neutral. You mean we're actually going to Earth? The professor's tentacles twisted in what might have been embarrassment. After your enlightening presentation about Earth's marine predators, the board felt it would be educational to observe these creatures in their natural habitat. From a safe distance, surely. Rilith chimed nervously. Perhaps via remote drones? Actually, Professor Lyrix's bioluminescence pulsed rapidly, we'll be using a submersible observation vessel. The Academy has modified one of our research ships with appropriate shielding against Earth's more challenging environmental conditions. Zara couldn't help but smile. After spending months being treated like she might break at the slightest touch, watching her classmates prepare to visit her homeworld was surprisingly satisfying. When do we leave? Tomorrow. The research vessel is already in Earth orbit, awaiting final safety clearances. The professor's tentacles created a holographic display of their destination, a stretch of ocean off the coast of South Africa. We'll be observing several species, including those fascinating sharks Student Thompson introduced us to. The ones with the replaceable teeth? A gelatinous student quivered. Perhaps I should remain behind to catalog the data. Participation is mandatory, Professor Lyrix announced, their tentacles firm. This is a unique opportunity to study life forms that evolved in conditions most species would consider impossible. The insights we gain could revolutionize our understanding of evolutionary adaptation. As the class dispersed, Nebula drifted closer to Zara. I noticed you didn't mention the seasonal migration patterns during your presentation. You mean the fact that we're heading there during peak shark season? Zara grinned. I thought it might be better to let that be a surprise. The next morning, the research vessel hung in low Earth orbit like a silver teardrop against the blue marble of Zara's homeworld. The ship's adaptive shielding rippled constantly, protecting its more delicate passengers from Earth's radiation levels and atmospheric pressure. Initial environmental scans complete, the ship's AI announced as they began their descent. Warning, multiple large biological entities detected in the target area. Professor Lyrix's tentacles twisted anxiously. Perhaps we should choose a different location. Those would be the seals, Zara explained, checking the readings. Great whites are drawn to seal colonies. It's actually perfect timing. The submersible detached from the main vessel with a soft hiss, its transparent hull offering a panoramic view of the ocean below. Zara sat comfortably in her seat while her classmates made various adjustments to their environmental suits and protective fields. The liquid seems unusually active today, Rilith observed as they descended beneath the waves. Their crystalline form sparkled in the filtered sunlight. That's because something's hunting, Zara said quietly, pointing to a dark shape moving through the water with deadly grace. There. Watch. The great white passed close to their submersible, its muscular body longer than their vessel. Through the transparent hull, they could see every detail, the ancient eyes, the scars that told stories of countless battles, the rows of serrated teeth visible even when its mouth was closed. By the cosmic void, Professor Lyrix whispered, their tentacles pressed against the hull. It's even more impressive in its natural environment. That's nothing, Zara said, checking the sonar. Look there. A seal was swimming near the surface, unaware of the predator below. The shark turned, accelerating with impossible speed for something its size. What happened next caused several of Zara's classmates to violate the laws of physics in their panic. The great white breached, launching its entire body out of the water in a spray of silver droplets, the seal caught in its jaws. For a moment, the massive predator seemed to hang in the air, water cascading off its scales, before it crashed back into the waves with earth-shaking force. The submersible rocked in the aftermath. When the water cleared, there was no sign of the seal, and the shark had vanished back into the depths. This, Professor Lyrix said slowly, their bioluminescence pulsing with a new rhythm Zara had never seen before, this is what your species grew up alongside? Among other things, Zara replied. We haven't even reached the deep water yet. That's where it gets really interesting. Nebula, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke. I believe I understand now. We've been thinking about Earth all wrong. It's not that humans are surprisingly tough for such a fragile species. It's that any species that could evolve to dominate a world like this must be far more dangerous than we appear. Zara finished, watching another dark shape glide past their vessel. Funny how perspective changes things, isn't it? The submersible continued its descent into deeper waters, where more of Earth's secrets waited in the darkness below. And with each passing moment, Zara's classmates were beginning to understand why humans didn't just survive on their Deathworld, they ruled it. Into the abyss. The submersible's lights cut through the darkening water as they descended deeper into the Pacific. At this depth, the sunlight barely penetrated, creating an alien landscape that made even Zara's classmates from gas-giant planets feel uneasy. Approaching 1,000 meters, the ship's AI announced. Warning, multiple bioelectric signatures detected. Professor Lyrix's tentacles coiled tightly. Perhaps this is deep enough for our observations. Actually, Zara said, adjusting the external sensors, this is where things get interesting. We're about to enter the twilight zone. Your oceans have designated zones. Rilitha's crystalline structure vibrated with nervous energy. The mesopelagic zone, Zara explained, where sunlight fades and the real adaptations begin. Most of our deep-sea predators hunt here. As if on cue, something massive moved past the submersible's viewport. In the beam of their lights, they caught glimpses of tentacles and a single, enormous eye. Giant squid, Zara identified casually. They're usually in deeper water. We must have caught this one hunting. That creature, Nebula expanded in astonishment, their purple swirls darkening, it's larger than our vessel. Oh, that's a small one, Zara replied, checking the instruments. Wait until you see a colossal squid. They're the ones with the rotating hooks on their tentacles. The submersible's internal lighting flickered as several of her classmates involuntarily released energy in their shock. Detecting rapid temperature changes in the surrounding water, the AI reported. Multiple organisms approaching from below. The viewport filled with silver shapes, a school of fish moving with uncanny coordination, like a single organism made of thousands of parts. Behind them, darker shapes moved with predatory purpose. Tuna, Zara identified. And those behind them are oceanic white-tipped sharks. They hunt in groups. Pack predators, Professor Lyrics whispered, their bioluminescence pulsing rapidly. Like the ones from your presentation. The water around them erupted into chaos as the sharks struck. The school of tuna split and reformed, desperate maneuvers that seemed impossible for their size. The sharks moved with terrifying precision, herding their prey into tighter groups. Are they communicating? Nebula asked, fascinated despite their fear. In their own way, Zara confirmed. Many Earth species have complex hunting strategies. Some use tools, others coordinate attacks. The really clever ones do both. A new sound reached them through the hull, a series of clicks and whistles that made the water vibrate. What is that? Rilitha's crystalline form resonated with the sound. Before Zara could answer, huge shapes emerged from the darkness. Sleek, powerful bodies moved through the water with effortless grace, their black and white coloring stark against the deep blue. Orcas, Zara breathed. A whole pod. The killer whales moved like liquid shadows, their coordination perfect as they surrounded the hunting sharks. What happened next caused Professor Lyrics to tie their tentacles in knots. The orcas worked together, using sound and pressure waves to disorient the sharks. One by one, they flipped the larger predators upside down, inducing a state of paralysis. Tonic immobility, Zara explained as her classmates watched in horrified fascination. They learned that sharks go into a trance when inverted. They're teaching their young how to hunt. These creatures, Professor Lyrics said slowly, they're not just surviving. They're learning. Adapting. Teaching. That's the thing about Earth, Zara replied, watching the orcas herd the remaining sharks away. Everything here had to get smarter, faster, or stronger just to survive. Sometimes all three. The submersible continued its descent, the water growing darker and colder. Strange creatures appeared in their lights, fish with transparent heads, others that created their own light, and some that looked like nothing her classmates had ever imagined. There are more unique species in this single column of water, Professor Lyrics noted, their scientific curiosity overcoming their fear, than on some entire planets. And we've only explored about 5% of Earth's oceans, Zara added. Imagine what's still down there, waiting to be discovered. A ping from their instruments drew everyone's attention. Something large was moving below them, at the edge of their sensor range. What is that? Nebula asked, condensing slightly. Zara checked the readings, a smile spreading across her face. Something that's been hunting in these waters since before my species walked on land. Professor, how do you feel about meeting a megalodon's closest living relative? The lights of their submersible pushed deeper into the abyss, where ancient predators still ruled the darkness, and every shadow might hide another of Earth's endless evolutionary marvels. And with each passing moment, Zara's classmates were beginning to understand that their previous ideas about humans' place in the galaxy might need serious revision. Revelation. The emergency alert blared through the submersible's cabin as their vessel lurched violently to one side. Red warning lights pulsed in rhythm with Professor Lyrics's panicked bioluminescence. Hull integrity compromised, the ship's AI announced with unsettling calm. Secondary containment holding. Detecting rapid pressure changes in surrounding water. Something hit us, Rilith chimed in alarm, their crystalline structure vibrating with the submersible's movements. Something big. Zara was already at the controls, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The external cameras showed what had struck them, a massive shape moving through the darkness, bigger than anything they'd seen so far. Pacific sleeper shark, she identified, her voice steady despite the chaos. They usually stay in deeper water. This one must have been drawn by our electromagnetic signature. Usually deeper. Nebula expanded nervously. How large do they typically grow? The answer came not in words but in image as the creature passed by their viewport again. Nearly 7 meters of ancient predator, its gray-black skin blending perfectly with the abyssal darkness. Only its eyes, rolling white as it hunted, stood out in their lights. Fascinating, Professor Lyrics whispered, scientific curiosity momentarily overriding fear. Its size should make such movement impossible at these depths, yet. The shark struck again, testing their hull with prehistoric patience. The submersible's shields crackled with energy, barely holding. "We need to surface," Rilith chimed urgently. "Before it breaks through." "No," Zara said, her eyes fixed on the readings. "If we ascend too quickly, the pressure change could kill it. These sharks are perfectly adapted to the deep. They can barely survive in shallow water." "You're worried about the creature that's trying to eat us?" A gelatinous student quivered in disbelief. "Every species in Earth's oceans plays a vital role," Zara explained, making minute adjustments to their position. "Even the predators. Especially the predators. Without them, the entire ecosystem would collapse." Understanding rippled through Nebula's gaseous form. "That's why humans study them instead of eliminating them. You're not just surviving alongside Earth's predators. We're their guardians," Zara finished, powering down their external lights. "We protect them, study them, learn from them. Yes, they're dangerous. Yes, they could kill us. But they're part of what makes Earth what it is." The shark made another pass, slower this time. Without the bright lights to attract it, its interest began to wane. "Remarkable," Professor Lyrics noted, their tentacles relaxing slightly. "Your species evolved on a world that could kill you in countless ways, alongside creatures that have been perfecting the art of predation for millions of years, and your response was to preserve them? What better way to learn about survival?" Zara asked, watching the shark disappear into the darkness. "Every predator on Earth is a living lesson in adaptation. The sharks teach us about efficiency and endurance. The orcas show us the power of cooperation and intelligence. Even the smallest creatures have something to teach, if you're willing to learn." The submersible's emergency lights finally dimmed as the immediate danger passed. Through the viewport, they could see other shapes moving in the darkness, ancient creatures going about their business in a world that had remained largely unchanged for millions of years. "I believe," Nebula said softly, "we have been rather short-sighted about humans. We saw your technological advancement and assumed you had overcome your world's challenges. But you hadn't overcome them at all," Rilith continued, their crystalline structure reflecting the deep ocean's bioluminescence. "You had learned to understand them. To work with them," Professor Lyrics added, their tentacles creating complex patterns in the water. "To become part of them," Zara confirmed. "Earth isn't just a death world. It's a living laboratory of evolution, a testament to life's endless ability to adapt and survive. And humans? We're just one more species that learned to thrive here. Maybe that's what makes us different from other spacefaring races. We never tried to conquer our world's challenges. We learned to dance with them." As their submersible began its careful ascent, Zara's classmates watched the deep ocean's darkness fade into twilight, then into the sun-dappled shallows. But they were different now. They had seen Earth's true nature, had witnessed firsthand the delicate balance of terror and beauty that had shaped humanity's evolution. And they finally understood, humans weren't impressive because they had survived a death world. They were impressive because they had taken all of its deadly lessons and turned them into strength, wisdom, and an unshakable determination to explore the universe while protecting the deadly paradise that had forged them. "You know," Nebula mused as they approached the surface, their forms shimmering with newfound respect, perhaps we should reconsider the term Deathworld. Earth isn't a planet of death at all. Oh. Zara raised an eyebrow. What would you call it? A university, Nebula replied. The most challenging one in the galaxy. And humans? You're not its victims or its conquerors. You're its star graduates. The sunlight broke through the waves above them, and somewhere in the depths behind them, ancient predators continued their eternal dance of survival, teaching their timeless lessons to any species brave enough to learn.